Yes, the dream of playing Breath of the Wild or Link to the Past on your PlayStation console may be well and truly dead. But that doesn't mean there aren't tons of great games out there very similar to Zelda. In this video, I will show you some best games like Zelda for PS4 and PS5. So without any further ado, let's start this video. The first game of this video is Immortals Fenyx Rising. Given that it was created by the same team that were responsible for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it's perhaps not too surprising that so much care and attention was given to the world of Immortals Fenyx Rising. It's definitely a lot smaller than the one found in Breath of the Wild, although it is hiding just as many secrets and is a lot of fun to explore. Next up we have Hob. Many people wrote Hob off as just another Breath of the Wild clone when it first released, but there is far more to it than that. Granted, the game's art style is incredibly similar, it's full of engaging puzzles, and it features a silent protagonist, but these things are typically implemented in their own unique ways. Next up we have Horizon Zero Dawn. Much like Breath of the Wild, the beautiful open world in Horizon Zero Dawn is sparsely populated, and this can really help players to become immersed in its beauty as they explore. The game's machines also bear quite a few similarities with the Guardians found throughout Hyrule, although arguably feature far more creative designs. Next up we have Hyper Light Drifter. The 8-bit art style found in Hyper Light Drifter predates even the very first Zelda title, but while the game looks pretty different to any of Link's adventures, it can end up playing fairly similarly at times. Combat is fast and frantic, and there's a decent variety of enemies, just as there are in Zelda games. Next up we have Oceanhorn Monster of Uncharted. The first Oceanhorn game looks and plays a lot like Grezzo's Link's Awakening remake. It seems to have drawn a lot of its inspiration from the series in general, but it's far more than just another Zelda clone. It's fun, looks stunning and features some fairly decent puzzles to boot. After selling more than 1 million copies, it even got a sequel. Next up we have Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact took the world by storm when it released in late 2020 and remains incredibly popular to this day. Sure, it doesn't offer anywhere near as much depth as Breath of the Wild, but it arguably provides a lot more content thanks to its constant updates and events. Better still, it features a fairly decent multiplayer mode and is also free to play. Next up we have the Swords of Ditto. The Swords of Ditto essentially feels like a roguelike version of A Link to the Past, except it's been animated by a team from Cartoon Network. Its top-down presentation instantly makes you think of old-school Zelda games. The same is true for the way you simply want to hang out in its towns, chatting with all of the villagers and soaking in the beautiful atmosphere. Next up we have The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is another game that bears a lot of similarities to Breath of the Wild, but once again diverges when it comes to tone and art style. It is very much a darker game, both when it comes to its general subject matter and the violent nature of its combat. The latter is further emphasized by a more true-to-life art style, which ultimately gives the game's world a very different feel than Hyrule. Next up we have Darksiders Warmastered Edition. Darksiders Warmastered Edition seems like an odd choice when it comes to games like Zelda on PS5. But hear us out. It may be a bit darker and a bit more violent, but when it comes to gameplay, Darksiders has taken pages straight out of the Zelda handbook. The last game of this video is Chicory: A Colorful Tale. Imagine a Zelda game that you have to color in yourself, and you're part way to imagining exactly what Chicory is. This top-down adventure sees you exploring a world not unlike that in A Link to the Past. Your character has just become the wielder, a very important person who wields a magical paintbrush. With it, they can color in the world around them, bringing joy to the people who live there. So that's the list of 10 best games like Zelda on PS4 and PS5 that you can play in 2021. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel Games Puff and press the bell icon for more gaming updates.